Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartamekam Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Caitanya Shariradhari Kripam Buddhir Yasya Param Buddhi. We're reading from the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, number 1. And we're taking up where we left off yesterday. What a glorious day it was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes.
Didn't it seem like more like a one day of Brahma? It seemed like it to me. Woke up this morning and I thought, was that a day of Brahma? Because it was so dense with Kṛṣṇa-kathā, and now we get to do it again. And you know, nobody can stop us. Even if they send ice over here, we're going to keep going. Okay, so we're... technological difficulties. Giving highly tuned instruments to a caveman. We're starting up at 218, if I'm not incorrect. If anybody who keeps more careful score than I do. Near Akula? Any adjustment? 218.
219.
Thank you. Nityananda Haridas Shrivas Gadadhara Mukunda Jagadananda Murari Vrikeshwar. All the Vaishnava associates of the Lord were present, including Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, Srivas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit, Mukunda, Jagadananda Pandit, Murari, and Vrikeshwar. In accordance with the instructions of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the two brothers, Rupa and Sanatan, immediately touched the lotus feet of these Vaishnavas, who all became very happy and congratulated the two brothers for having received the mercy of the Lord. Purport: this behavior is indicative of real Vaishnavas. When they saw that Rupa and Sanatan were fortunate enough to receive the mercy of the Lord, they were so pleased that they all congratulated the two brothers. Hare Krishna, welcome. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Welcome to everyone who's just joined us. I think there's a few extra devotees coming today. Patri said he's bringing his whole yatra. So be prepared. Any idea where we are? Huh? 220. Okay. It's the wind. This behavior is indicative of real Vaishnavas. When they saw that Rupa and Sanatan were fortunate enough to receive the mercy of the Lord, they were so pleased that they all congratulated the two brothers. A jealous person in the dress of a Vaishnava is not at all happy to see the success of another Vaishnava in receiving the Lord's mercy. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are many mundane persons in the dress of Vaishnavas. We read that yesterday. So Similar theme. Age of Kali, there are many mundane persons in the dress of Vaishnavas, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described them as disciples of Kali. He says Kali Chela. He indicates that there is another Vaishnava, a pseudo-Vaishnava with tilak on his nose and kanti beads around his neck. Such a pseudo-Vaishnava associates with money and women and is jealous of successful Vaishnavas. Although passing for a Vaishnava, his only business is earning money in the dress of a Vaishnava. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore says that such a pseudo-Vaishnava is not a Vaishnava at all, but a disciple of Kali Yuga. A disciple of Kali cannot become an acharya by the decisions of some high court. Mundane votes have no jurisdiction to elect a Vaishnavacharya. A Vaishnavacharya is self-effulgent, and there is no need for any court judgment. A false acharya may try to override a Vaishnava by a high court decision, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he is nothing but a disciple of Kali Yuga. 221. After begging the permission of all the Vaishnavas present, the two brothers at the time of their departure humbly submitted something at the lotus feet of the Lord. They said, "Dear Lord, although the King of Bengal, Nawab Hussain Shah, is very respectful toward you, you have no other business here. Kindly depart from this place." Although the king is respectful toward you, he still belongs to the Yavana class and should not be believed. We think there is no need for such a great crowd to accompany you on your pilgrimage to Vrindavan. Dear Lord, you are going to Vrindavan with hundreds and thousands of people following you, and this is not a fitting way to go on a pilgrimage. Purport: sometimes for business purposes, large crowds of men are taken to different places of pilgrimage, and money is collected from them. That is a very lucrative business. But Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, expressing their opinion in the presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, disapproved of such crowded pilgrimages. Actually, when Lord Chaitanya visited Vrindavan, he visited it alone and accepted a servant only at his devotee's request. He never visited Vrindavan with crowds of people for a commercial purpose. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Lord, and was therefore not at all fearful, he still acted like a human being to teach neophytes how to act. Having spoken thus, the two brothers offered prayers to the lotus feet of the Lord and returned to their homes. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then desired to leave that village. In the morning, the Lord left and went to a place known as Kṛṣṇa-kathā. While there, he saw many pastimes of Lord Krishna. Purport: in those days in Bengal, there were many places known as Kṛṣṇa-kathā, where pictures of the pastimes of Krishna were kept. People used to go there to see them. This is called Krishna Charita Lila. In Bengal, there are still many places called Hari Sabha, which indicate a place where local people gather to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and discuss the pastimes of Lord Krishna. The word Kanai means Lord Krishna's, and Natashala indicates a place where pastimes are demonstrated. So those places which at the present moment are called Hari Sabha may previously have been known as Kanai Natashala. 228. That night the Lord considered Sanatana Goswami's proposal that he should not go to Vrindavan followed by so many people. The Lord thought, if I go to Mathura with such crowds behind me, it would not be a happy situation, for the atmosphere would be disturbed. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that visiting a holy place like Vrindavan with so many people is simply disturbing. He would not find the happiness he desired by visiting such holy places in that way. The Lord concluded that he would go alone to Vrindavan, or at most he would take only one person as his companion. In that way, going to Vrindavan would be very pleasant. Thinking like this, the Lord took his morning bath in the Ganges and started for Nilachala, saying, I shall go there. Walking and walking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Shantipur and remained at the house of Advaitacharya for 5 to 7 days. Taking this opportunity, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu sent for Mother Shachi Devi, and she remained at his house for 7 days to prepare the meals for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Taking permission from his mother, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then started for Jagannath Puri. When the devotees followed him, he humbly begged them to remain and bade them all farewell. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, although requesting all the devotees to go back, allowed 2 people to follow him. He requested all the devotees to come to Jagannath Puri and meet him during the car festival. The 2 persons who accompanied Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri, Nilachala, were Balabhadra Bhattacharya and Damodar Pandit. Who were they? Very good. After remaining at Jagannath Puri for a few days, the Lord secretly started for Vrindavan at night. He did this without anyone's knowledge. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu left Jagannath Puri for Vrindavan, only Balabhadra Bhattacharya was with him. Thus he traveled on the path through Jharikanda and arrived in Benares, Varanasi, with great delight. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Benares only 4 days and then left for Vrindavan. After seeing the town of Mathura, he visited the 12 forests. Purport: those who visit the Vrindavan area today also generally visit 12 places known as the 12 forests. They start at Mathura, where there is Kamyavan. From there they go to Talavan, Tamalavan, Madhuvan, Kusamavan, Bandiravan, Bilvavan, Bandravan, Kandiravan, Lohavan, Kamudhavan, and Gokula Mahavan. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited all 12 places of Sri Krishna's pastimes, he became very much agitated because of ecstasy. Balabhadra Bhattacharya somehow or other got him out of Mathura. After leaving Mathura, the Lord began to walk along the path on the bank of the Ganges, and finally he reached the holy place named Prayag, Allahabad. It was there that Srila Rupa Goswami came and met the Lord. At Prayag, Rupa Goswami fell down on the ground to offer obeisances to the Lord, and the Lord embraced him with great delight. After instructing Srila Rupa Goswami at the Dashashvamedha Ghat in Prayag, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered him to go to Vrindavan. The Lord then returned to Varanasi. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Varanasi, Sanatana Goswami met him there. The Lord remained there for 2 months and instructed Sanatana Goswami perfectly. After fully instructing Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him to Mathura with empowered devotional service. In Benares, he also bestowed his mercy upon the Mayavadi sannyasis. He then returned to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri. The Lord traveled all over India for 6 years. He was sometimes here and sometimes there, performing his transcendental pastimes, and sometimes he remained at Jagannath Puri. While at Jagannath Puri, the Lord passed his time in great joy by performing Sankirtan and visiting the temple of Jagannath in great ecstasy. Thus I have given a synopsis of the Madhya Lila, the middle pastimes of the Lord. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the synopsis of the final pastimes of the Lord, known as the Antya Lila. When the Lord returned to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan, he remained there and did not go anywhere else for 18 years. During those 18 years, all the devotees of Bengal used to visit him at Jagannath Puri every year. They would remain there for 4 continuous months and enjoy the company of the Lord. At Jagannath Puri, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu performed chanting and dancing unceasingly. Thus he enjoyed the pastime of Sankirtan. He manifested his causeless mercy, pure love of God, to everyone, including the lowest man. Residing with the Lord at Jagannath Puri were Pandit Gosai and other devotees such as Vrikreshwar, Damodara, Shankara, and Haridas Thakur. Jagadananda, Bhagavan, Govinda, Kashishvara, Paramananda Puri, and Swarup Damodar were other devotees who also lived with the Lord. Srila Ramananda Roy and other devotees who were residents of Jagannath Puri also remained permanently with the Lord. Other devotees of the Lord headed by Sri Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu Mukunda, Srivas, Vidyanidhi, Vasudev, and Murari used to visit Jagannath Puri and remain with the Lord for 4 continuous months. The Lord enjoyed various pastimes in their company. At Jagannath Puri, Haridas Thakur passed away. The incident was very wonderful because the Lord himself performed the festival of Thakur Haridas's departure. At Jagannath Puri, Srila Rupa Goswami met the Lord again, and the Lord invested his heart with all transcendental power. After this, the Lord punished Junior Haridas, and Damodar Pandit gave some warning to the Lord. Purport: actually, Damodar Pandit was the eternal servant of the Lord. He could not punish the Lord at any time, nor had he any desire to. But he did give some warning to the Lord, so that others would not blaspheme him. Of course, he should have known that the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is free to act in any way. There is no need to warn him, and such an action is not very much appreciated by advanced devotees. Thereafter, Sanatana Goswami met the Lord again, and the Lord tested him in scorching heat during the month of Jyeshta. Being pleased, the Lord sent Sanatana Goswami back to Vrindavan. After that, he was fed wonderfully by the hands of Sri Advaita Acharya. After sending Sanatana Goswami back to Vrindavan, the Lord privately consulted with Sri Nityananda Prabhu. He then sent him to Bengal to preach love of Godhead. Soon afterwards, Vallabha Bhatta met the Lord at Jagannath Puri, and the Lord explained to him the import of the holy name of Krishna. Purport: Vallabha Bhatta is the head of the Vaishnava Sampradaya, known as the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya in Western India. There is a long story about Vallabha Acharya, narrated in the Caitanya Charitamrita, specifically in the 7th chapter of the Antya Lila and the 19th chapter of the Madhya Lila. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the house of Vallabha Acharya on the other side of Prayag, in a place known as Adailagram. Later, Vallabha Bhatta saw Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri to explain his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. He was very proud of his writings, but Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu corrected him, telling him that a Vaishnava should be humble and follow in the footsteps of his predecessors. The Lord told him that his pride in being superior to Sridhar Swami was not at all befitting a Vaishnava. After explaining the transcendental qualities of Ramananda Roy, the Lord sent Pradyumna Mishra to his residence, and Pradyumna Mishra learned Kṛṣṇa-kathā from him. After this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saved Gopinath Patanyayaka, the younger brother of Ramananda Roy, from being condemned to death by the king. Ramachandra Puri criticized Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's eating. Therefore, the Lord reduced his eating to a minimum. However, when all the Vaishnavas became very sorry, the Lord increased his portion to half as much as usual. There are 14 planetary systems within the universe, and all living entities reside in those planetary systems. Dressing like human beings on pilgrimage, they all used to come to Jagannath Puri to visit Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. One day, all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur were chanting the transcendental qualities of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Not liking the chanting of his transcendental qualities, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chastised them as if he were angry. "What kind of chanting is this?" he asked. "Are you leaving aside the chanting of the holy name of the Lord?" Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chastised all the devotees, telling them not to show impudence and spoil the entire world by becoming independent. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned all his followers not to become independent or impudent. Unfortunately, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, many Apasampradayas, so-called followers, invented many ways not approved by the Acharyas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described them as Aul, Bhaul, Karta Bhaja, Nedha, Dadavesh, Sani, Sahajya, Sakibeki, Smarta, Jata Gosai, Ativadi, Chutadhari, and Gauranga Nagari. The Aula Sampradaya, Bhava Sampradaya, and others invented their own way of understanding Lord Chaitanya's philosophy without following in the footsteps of the Acharyas. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself indicates herein that all such attempts would simply spoil the spirit of his cult. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was apparently in an angry mood and chastising his devotees, many thousands of people outside loudly cried in a tumultuous voice, "All glories to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu!" All the people began to call him very loudly, "All glories to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the son of Maharajananda. Now you have appeared in order to deliver the whole world. O Lord, we are very unhappy. We have come a long distance to see you. Please be merciful and show us your favor." When the Lord heard the humble petition made by the people, his heart softened. Being very merciful, he immediately came out and gave audience to all of them. Raising his arms, the Lord asked everyone to chant loudly the vibration of the holy name of Lord Hari. There immediately arose a great stir, and the vibration of Hari filled all directions. Seeing the Lord, everyone became joyful out of love. Everyone accepted the Lord as the Supreme, and thus they offered their prayers. While the people were offering their prayers unto the Lord, Srivas Thakur sarcastically said to the Lord, "At home you wanted to be covered. Why have you exposed yourself outside?" Srivas Thakur continued, "Who has taught these people? What are they saying? Now you can cover their mouths with your own hand." It is as if the sun, after rising, wanted to hide itself. We cannot understand such characteristics in your behavior. The Lord replied, "My dear Srinivas, please stop joking. You have all combined together to humiliate me in this way." Thus speaking, the Lord entered his room after glancing auspiciously upon the people out of charity. In this way, the desires of the people were completely fulfilled. At this time, Raghunath Das approached Sri Nityananda Prabhu and, according to his order, prepared a feast and distributed prasadam, composed of chipped rice and curd. Purport. There is a special preparation in Bengal wherein chipped rice is mixed with curd and sometimes with sandesh and mango. It is very palatable food offered to the deity and then distributed to the public. Raghunath Das Goswami, who was a householder at this time, met Nityananda Prabhu. According to his advice, he executed this festival of Dadichida Prasad. Later, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami left home and took shelter of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. At that time, the Lord received him and placed him under the care of Swarup Damodar for spiritual enlightenment. Purport. In this regard, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami writes in his Vilap Kushamanjali. Who knows the meter? It's too long for Brahma Samhita. Yo mam dustara geha nirjala maha kuparakat sadya sandradayam buddhi prakitata swari kriparajubi udrit yatma sarojanindi charana Prantam prapadya swayam Shri Damodara Sachakara Tamaham Caitanya Chandra Bhaje. Where's the thing? This means that. Thank you. One more time. Yo mam dustara geha nirjalamaha kuparapala klamat sadya sandradayam buddhi prakritata swak rajuvi udrit yatma sarojanindi charanam prantam prapadya swayam Shridamodara satchakara tamaham Caitanya chandram bhaje. One more time. Shridamodara satchakara tamaham Caitanya chandram bhaje. Gora Premanande Nitai Gora Haribol 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 Nitai Gora Haribol Tell Shamalangi to add it to the list. Okay? Thank you. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who by his unreserved mercy kindly saved me from household life, which is exactly like a blind well without water, and placed me in the ocean of transcendental joy under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami. It's a good song for a Grihastha community. Later, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu stopped Brahmananda Bharati's habit of wearing deerskin. The Lord thus enjoyed his pastimes continuously for 6 years, experiencing varieties of transcendental bliss. I have thus given a synopsis of the Madhya Lila. Now please hear the pastimes the Lord performed during the last 12 years. Purport. Thus, Srila Kaviraj Goswami, strictly following in the footsteps of Sri Vyasadeva, gives a synopsis of the Leelas of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. He has given such a description at the end of each canto. In the Adi Leela, he outlined the pastimes of the Lord in the 5 stages of boyhood, leaving the details of the description of Srila Vrindavandas Thakur. Now, in this chapter, the pastimes that took place at the end of the Lord's life are summarized. These are described in the Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. The rest of the pastimes have been described in a synopsis in the 2nd chapter of the Madhya Lila. In this way, the author has gradually described both the Madhya Lila and the Antya Lila. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Ranganath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 1st chapter, summarizing the later pastimes of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Bravo! Bravissimo! Sadhu, sadhu! Okay, we'll take just a couple of observations, reflections, questions. Yes, Mathura Kripa.
Just a clarification.
Clarification.
The first 6 years in Jagannath Puri, is that part of the Madhya Lila that we just heard of?
Yes.
Or is that in the Antya Lila?
No, it's there in the Madhya Lila.
That's Madhya Lila also.
Anything else? Yes.
I've heard it described that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study and the Caitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study. Could you explain a little bit about why that is, why it's considered above the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Not exactly above the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Caitanya Charitamrita is a garland of verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the same prep with just a little camphor added. That's what Kaviraj Goswami says. It's ambrosia. And it's more about the rasa of it, not considering in academic terms, but when the Bhagavatam describes the relationships that Krishna has with his devotees, and then they're enacted in the Caitanya Charitamrita. And the details, many of the details are also explained. So just as, in a graduate course, you get much more than you did in the survey courses and all the electives you took. And then when you get into the PhD level and post, then you specialize in different areas. So it's sort of a specialization also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, the teachings are enumerated at the very beginning, anarpita charim chara. Of course, the basic of understanding of Vedanti tat tattva vidas is explaining that it's the same Supreme Swayam Bhagavan. And then anarpita charim chara, they're teaching something that has never been taught before, and getting into the details of that. Anything from the outside People's Party? There's one in the back, I think, if I'm not mistaken. There's a humming sound somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. A little reflection. I just found it interesting how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, all the residents of the 14 planetary systems came there in the guise of human beings. I mean, it seems inconceivable, how it's possible that they appeared in their self-same bodies at that time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there.
Well, you'd want to go too, right?
Yeah, of course. But even to this day, they haven't figured it out how to do interplanetary traveling, and so how they how they manage that. I found it just interesting, just an interesting point.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Okay, last one from Mukadavind, and then Akshobhyatirtha.
Maharaj, this was one verse in which the purport was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that visiting a holy place like Vrindavan with so many people is simply disturbing. He would not find happiness he desired by visiting such holy place in that way. So is that particularly because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that rasa, or like you were telling the mellows, but in general, like in today's day, like sometimes we organize yatra, we want more and more devotees to come. So what's the difference between these two, and wanted to understand?
Well, the main difference that he mentioned was that it was commercial. Prabhupada said, of course, you can make a lot of money doing that. But it's always about the mood and the intention. If the intention is to go there to be in sadhu sangha and to visit the holy places, to get more advanced, to go back and preach, then it's a lovely thing. Prabhupada invited his whole movement to come to Vrindavan every year. In fact, he told all his disciples, you have to come once a year to Mayapur, Vrindavan, and meet me there. So back then Prabhupada did it, but the whole mood was, we're just going there to be with Prabhupada, be in the Dham, and get ready to go back out and preach. And so if that mood is there, you don't notice how many people are there. It's not about the number per se, but it's about the mood of the people. If you go with 3 people, and they're going on it because it's a National Geographic tour to take pictures of people and stuff, and they don't really care about Krishna, then you'll feel ill the whole time for hanging out with such people. But it's with pure devotees, the more the merrier. But in general, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or specifically, there was a raucous crowd. It's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavata how when the crowds would come to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we already heard here earlier, they were making divots in the road, trying to get at him. And every time he'd walk out of the house, just like in this incident, everyone would start cheering, and that's hard to go on pilgrimage when you have that sort of entourage, when everyone's trying to get a piece of you. You can't really get absorbed in the Vrindavan mood in that way. And when Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, he stayed at Kṛṣṇa Ghat, and he would come over to the Imli Tal every day by himself. And he would sit down under Imli Tal tree and chant japa until late morning. And so that is also a factor, even if you're with devotees. You've been on big yatras, right? Like with 10,000 plus? Yes. How does it compare to one with 60 people in it? I mean, everyone can fit in one place, you're all together. I mean, they're all good. It's just really about the intention. Okay, Akshobhya Tirtha.
Just a reflection, Guru Maharaj, this Hari Sabha and Natshala, Kanai Natshala, there's the whole idea in Bengal now, which is for many years been a communist-run state, and now, of course, we have supposedly a democratic. So Prabhupada had a very interesting insight about politics, and he intersperses it here. So these Hari Sabhas have become places for nutty people. So, in the sense, Natyashala, they actually, like you say about politics and Bollywood and sports, these places have now become places instead of Hari-katha and Harinam, they've been degraded in Kali Yuga.
Yeah, everything is degraded in Kali Yuga. That's why we have to preach. Okay, really last one.
I was also thinking in terms of yatras, the standard of faith of the people that you're going on the yatra with, if it's like a very mixed kind of group, it can be difficult to get absorbed, actually. But if you have a similar snigdha, that Rupa Goswami says that similar type of faith is there, then the mood becomes very, very deep. Even if it's 10,000 people, if everyone's on a similar kind of faith, it can be really absorbing.
It's just what I said, only talking about Shraddha, but it's really true. It's true in any gathering. For instance, if you've ever been in a discussion with devotees that you know, and you know their level of understanding, and then a brand new person walks in, it's like you have to downshift manually from 5th gear down to 1st and start crawling so that you can give context, and that changes the mood. Definitely. It's an excellent point. We're continuing with chapter 2, the ecstatic manifestations of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. In this chapter, the author describes the pastimes the Lord performed during the last 12 years of his life. Thus, he has also described some of the pastimes of the Antya Lila. Why he has done so is very difficult for an ordinary person to understand. The author expects that reading the pastimes of the Lord will gradually help a person awaken his dormant love of Krishna. Actually, this Caitanya Charitamrita was compiled by the author during very old age. Fearing he might not be able to finish the book, he has included a synopsis of the Antya Lila here in the 2nd chapter. Srila Kaviraj Goswami has confirmed that the opinion of Swarup Damodar is authoritative in the matter of devotional service. Over and above this are the notes of Swarup Damodar memorized by Raghunath Das Goswami, who also helped in the compilation of the Caitanya Charitamrita. After the disappearance of Swarup Damodar Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami went to Vrindavan. At that time, the author, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, met Raghunath Das Goswami, by whose mercy he also could memorize all the notes. In this way, the author was able to complete this transcendental literature, Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. Text 1. While relating in synopsis form the last division of the pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, in this chapter I shall describe the Lord's transcendental ecstasy, which appears like madness due to his separation from Krishna. Purport: in this 2nd chapter, the activities of Lord Chaitanya that took place after the Lord accepted sannyas are generally described. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is specifically mentioned here as being Gaura, or of fair complexion. Krishna is generally known to be blackish, but when he is absorbed in the thought of the gopis, who are all of fair complexion, Krishna himself also becomes fair. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, in particular, felt separation from Krishna very deeply, exactly like a lover who is dejected in separation from the beloved. Such feelings, which were expressed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu for nearly 12 years at the end of his pastimes, are described in brief in this second chapter of the Madhya Lila. All glories to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. During his last 12 years, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu always manifested all the symptoms of ecstasy and separation from Krishna. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's state of mind, day and night, was practically identical to Radharani's state of mind when Uddhava came to Vrindavan to see the gopis. The Lord constantly exhibited a state of mind reflecting the madness of separation. All his activities were based on forgetfulness, and his talks were always based on madness. Blood flowed from all the pores of his body, and all his teeth were loosened. At one moment, his whole body became slender, and at another moment, his whole body became fat. The small room beyond the corridor is called Gambhira. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay in that room, but he did not sleep for a moment. All night he used to grind his mouth and head on the wall, and his face sustained injuries all over. Although the 3 doors of the house were always closed, the Lord would nonetheless go out and sometimes would be found at the Jagannath temple, before the gate known as Singhadwar, and sometimes the Lord would fall flat into the sea. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would also run very fast across the sand dunes, mistaking them for Govardhana. As he ran, he would wail and cry loudly. Purport: because of the winds of the sea, sometimes the sand would form dunes. Such sand dunes are called Chataka Parvata. Instead of seeing these sand dunes simply as hills of sand, the Lord would take them to be Govardhan Hill. Sometimes he would run toward these dunes at high speed, crying very loudly, expressing the state of mind exhibited by Radharani. Thus Caitanya Mahaprabhu was absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and his pastimes. His state of mind brought him the atmosphere of Vrindavan and Govardhan Hill, and thus he enjoyed the transcendental bliss of separation and meeting. Sometimes Caitanya Mahaprabhu mistook the small parks of the city for Vrindavan. Sometimes he would go there, dance and chant, and sometimes fall unconscious in spiritual ecstasy. The extraordinary transformations of the body due to transcendental feelings would never have been possible for anyone but the Lord, in whose body all transformations were manifested. Purport: the ecstatic transformations of the body described in such exalted literatures as the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu are practically not seen in this material world. However, these symptoms were perfectly present in the body of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. These symptoms are indicative of Mahabhava, or the highest ecstasy. Sometimes sahajas artificially imitate these symptoms, but experienced devotees reject such imitations immediately. The author admits herein that these symptoms are not to be found anywhere but in the body of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The joints of his hands and legs would sometimes become separated by 8 inches, and they remained connected only by skin. Sometimes Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's hands, legs, and head would all enter within his body, just like the withdrawn limbs of a tortoise. In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to manifest wonderful ecstatic symptoms. His mind appeared vacant, and there were only hopelessness and disappointment in his words. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to express his mind in this way: "Where is the Lord of my life who is playing his flute? What shall I do now? Where should I go to find the son of Maharaj Nanda? To whom should I speak? Who can understand my disappointment? Without the son of Nanda Maharaj, my heart is broken." In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu always expressed bewilderment and lamented in separation from Krishna. At such times, he used to recite the shlokas from Ramananda Roy's drama known as Jagannath Vallabha Nataka. Is it same? Meter? Huh? Same one. What's it called? That one? It's the walk of the tiger. Prema chedarujavakach hare nayam nacha prema va stanastanam avaiti napi madano janati no durbala anyo vena nachanya dukamakilam no jivanam vashravam Gritramin vadanani yavana dam ha ha vide kagati. One more time. Dvitranye vadinani yovanamidam ha ha vide kagati. Srimati Radharani used to lament, our Krishna does not realize what we have suffered from injuries inflicted in the course of loving affairs. We are actually misused by love because love does not know where to strike and where not to strike. Even Cupid does not know of our very much weakened condition. What should I tell anyone? No one can understand another's difficulties. Our life is actually not under our control, for youth will remain for 2 or 3 days and soon be finished. In this condition, O Creator, what will be our destination? This verse is from the Jagannath Vallabha Nataka 3.9 of Ramananda Roy. Text 19, Srimati Radharani spoke thus, in distress due to separation from Krishna. Oh, what shall I say of my distress? After I met Krishna, my loving propensities sprouted, but upon separating from him, I sustained a great shock, which is now continuing like the sufferings of a disease. The only physician for this disease is Krishna himself, but he is not taking care of this sprouting plant of devotional service. What can I say about the behavior of Krishna? Outwardly, he is a very attractive young lover, but at heart, he is a great cheat, very expert in killing others' wives. Srimati Radharani continued lamenting about the consequences of loving Krishna. My dear friend, I do not understand the regulative principles given by the Creator. I loved Krishna for happiness, but the result was just the opposite. I'm now in an ocean of distress. It must be that now I am going to die, for my vital force no longer remains. This is my state of mind. By nature, loving affairs are very crooked. They are not entered with sufficient knowledge, nor do they consider whether a place is suitable or not, nor do they look forward to the results. By the ropes of his good qualities, Krishna, who is so unkind, has bound my neck and hands, and I am unable to get relief. In my loving affairs, there is a person named Madan. His qualities are thus. Personally, he possesses no gross body, yet he is very expert in giving pains to others. He has 5 arrows, and fixing them on his bow, he shoots them into the bodies of innocent women. Thus, these women become invalids. It would be better if he took my life without hesitation, but he does not do so. He simply gives me pain. In the scriptures it is said that one person can never know the unhappiness in the mind of another. Therefore, what can I say of my dear friends, Lalita and the others? Nor can they understand the unhappiness within me. They simply try to console me, repeatedly saying, "Dear friend, Be patient. I say, my dear friends, you are asking me to be patient, saying that Krishna is an ocean of mercy, and that sometime in the future he will accept me. However, I must say that this will not console me. A living entity's life is very flickering. It is like water on the leaf of a lotus flower. Who will live long enough to expect Krishna's mercy? A human being does not live more than 100 years. You should also consider that the youthfulness of a woman, which is the only attraction for Krishna, remains for only a few days. If you say that Krishna is an ocean of transcendental qualities, and therefore must be merciful someday, I can only say that he is like fire, which attracts moths by its dazzling brightness and kills them. Such are the qualities of Krishna. By showing us his transcendental qualities, he attracts our minds, and then later, by separating from us, he drowns us in an ocean of unhappiness. In this way, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu lamented in a great ocean of sadness, and thus he opened the doors of his unhappiness. Forced by the waves of ecstasy, his mind wandered over transcendental mellows, and he recited another verse as follows. My dear friends, unless I serve the transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna, all my days and all my senses will become entirely useless. Now I am uselessly bearing the burden of my senses, which are like stone blocks and dried wood. I do not know how long I will be able to continue without shame. Of what use are the eyes of one who does not see the face of Krishna, which resembles the moon and is the birthplace of all beauty and the reservoir of the nectarian songs of his flute? Oh, let a thunderbolt strike his head. Why does he keep such eyes? Purport: the moon-like face of Krishna is the reservoir of nectarian songs and the abode of his flute. It is also the root of all bodily beauty. The gopis think that if their eyes are not engaged in seeing the beautiful face of Krishna, it would be better for them to be struck by a thunderbolt. For the gopis to see anything but Krishna is uninteresting and, indeed, detestable. The gopis are never pleased to see anything but Krishna. The only solace for their eyes is the beautiful moon-like face of Krishna, the worshipful object of all senses. When they cannot see the beautiful face of Krishna, they actually see everything as vacant, and they desire to be struck by a thunderbolt. They do not find any reason to maintain their eyes when they are bereft of the beauty of Krishna. My dear friends, please hear me. I have lost all providential strength. Without Krishna, my body, consciousness, and mind, as well as all my senses, are useless. Topics about Krishna are like waves of nectar. If such nectar does not enter one's ears, the ear is no better than the hole of a damaged conch shell. Such an ear is created for no purpose. Purport: in this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes the following verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 2:3:17-24. Ayur harati vaipumsam udyan astam chayanasau tasyarte yatshano nita utama shloka vartaya taraba kim na jivanti pastra kim na shafanstyuta na kadanti na vihanti kim grame pashavo pore shvavid varahostra korai samstuta purushapasu na yat karna pato peto chatu nama gadagraja vile batoru krama vikramanye nashinvatan karma pute narasya jivasasiddharturike vasuta nachopagayanturugaya gata bharapadam pata kiratatushtam apyuttamangam nanamen mukundam shavau karano kurute saparyam hare lasat kanchana kankanava varhayite nayane naranam lingani vishnurna virikshato ye padonrinam tau drumajanma bhajau kshetrani nanurvajato hariryo jivan chavo bhagavatang grirenum najatumartyo bilabheta yastu Shri Vishnu Padya Manujastu Lasya Shvashan Chavo Yastu Naveda Gandam Tad Ashmasaram Hridayam Vatedam Yakri Hamanir Harinama Deyai Navikriyat Tata Yatabikado Netre Jalam Gatra Ruhesha Harsha. Both by rising and setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Do the trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, should be considered to possess ears like the holes of snakes and a tongue like that of a frog. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if it is not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti. And the hands, although the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari. The eyes, which do not look at the symbolic representations of the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, his forms, names, qualities, etc., are like those painted on the plumes of a peacock. And the legs, which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered, are considered to be like tree trunks. The person who has not at any time received upon his head the dust from the feet of a pure devotee of the Lord is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the flavor of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. Certainly that heart is steel framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change and feel ecstasy, at which time tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. 32. The nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna and his transcendental qualities and characteristics surpass the taste of the essence of all nectar. You know, another reason that it's described hierarchically as a undergraduate study, then graduate and postgraduate. Considering this section alone, if one doesn't have context, in fact, even in the Bhagavatam itself, Prabhupada warns you have to assimilate the first 9 cantos. In fact, he mentions don't go past the first 2 if you haven't achieved some kind of steadiness. Because once you get to the 10th canto, that you can misunderstand Krishna's pastimes to be ordinary, unless you have a categorical understanding that, first of all, you're not your body, second of all, Krishna is transcendental. And there's a spiritual science to that that's revealed progressively in the different cantos until we come to the 10th canto. When we come to the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, a lot is assumed and expected of the student who's reading it, that you already know this stuff. If somebody just jumps right in. Of course, with Prabhupada's books, he gives so much context as he goes along. And that's why when he wrote the Krishna book, which is the 10th canto directly, and that became a mainstay of our book distribution for a long time, directly giving out 10th canto, Prabhupada included the context within his summary of the 10th canto. So that was just another thought about the hierarchical description of Bhagavatam compared to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if I'm not incorrect, I think we're on text number 32. Yes. Everyone okay? Yes. Okay. The nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna and his transcendental qualities and characteristics surpass the taste of the essence of all nectar. And there's no fault in tasting such nectar. If one does not taste it, he should die immediately after birth. And his tongue is to be considered no better than the tongue of a frog. It just reminded me, once I was in Denver, Colorado, distributing books in the airport. And there's a lot of kind of rough and tumble cowboy type people there, and skiers. Hate skiers. And anyway, there was a cowboy who bought a second canto of the Bhagavatam. And at that time, we'd get cantos. It wasn't that we were selling sets, we were just selling individual volumes. You'd get, 20 cases of the 8th canto or the 3rd canto and just sell them, okay. And the guy came back and he had his finger in the book. And I said, he said, "Give me my money back." And I said, any particular reason why? I can't remember exactly how I put it, but I was just curious. He didn't say anything, but when I gave his money back, he opened the place and handed it to me and walked away, and it was description of the universal form of the Lord. And the entire anatomy of a normal person is mentioned there in context of the universal form of the Lord, because it's talking about the body of the Lord in relationship with the universe. And that's all the detail I'll give at this point. And I realized that it had disturbed his mind so much, just the detailed description of the body of God represented in the universe. And it has been, as you can tell, an indelible impression on my mind. That, again, it goes back to context. Most people, I was just thinking, in Christianity, there is bridal mysticism, and there is some idea of conjugal or marrying Jesus, but it's obviously not mainstream, and people can't. It's very difficult for people to conceptualize the personality of God. Even Christians. I mean, there's been debate about whether Jesus was God or whether he's the Son of God and so forth, but on their tracts that they used to give out prolifically, there was a throne, and on the throne there's just a light. There's no face, because that seems like you really have to commit to a person. That's a lot of... But here we have, the Supreme Personality of God. He looks like this, and not only that, he's engaged in this very deep love affair with himself. So how do you get context for that? You better start at least on Sri Ishopanishad. Like the Lord walks and he doesn't walk, and he's far away, very near as well, and so forth, and then work your way up, because it's not for everybody at first. One's nostrils are no better than the bellows of a blacksmith if one has not smelled the fragrance of Krishna's body, which is like the aroma of musk combined with that of the bluish lotus flower. Indeed, such combinations are actually defeated by the aroma of Krishna's body. The palms of Krishna's hands and the soles of his feet are so cool and pleasant that they can be compared only to the light of millions of moons. One who has touched such hands and feet has indeed tasted the effects of touchstone. If one has not touched them, his life is spoiled, and his body is like iron. Lamenting in this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu opened the doors of grief within his heart. Morose, humble, and disappointed, he recited a verse again and again with a despondent heart. Purport: in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the word yajña, humility, is explained as follows. When unhappiness, fearfulness, and the sense of having offended combine, one feels condemned. This sense of condemnation is described as dīnata, humility. When one is subjected to such humility, he feels physically inactive, he apologizes, and his consciousness is disturbed. His mind is also restless, and many other symptoms are visible. The word nirveda is also explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. One may feel unhappiness and separation, as well as jealousy and lamentation, due to not discharging one's duties. The despondency that results is called nirveda. When one is captured by this despondency, thoughts, tears, loss of bodily luster, humility, and heavy breathing result. Vishada is also explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When one fails to achieve his desired goal of life and repents for all his offenses, there is a state of regret called vishada. The symptoms of avasada are also explained. One hankers to revive his original condition of inquiries how to do so. There are also deep thought, heavy breathing, crying, and lamentation, as well as a changing of the bodily color and drying up of the tongue. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 33 such destructive symptoms are mentioned. They are expressed in words, in the eyebrows, and in the eyes. These symptoms are called vyabhichari bhava, destructive ecstasy. If they continue, they are sometimes called sanchari, or continued ecstasy. If by chance the transcendental form of Krishna comes before the path of my vision, my heart, injured from being beaten, will be stolen away by Cupid, happiness personified. Because I could not see the beautiful form of Krishna to my heart's content, when I again see his form, I shall decorate the phases of time with many jewels. This verse is spoken by Srimati Radharani and Ramananda Roy's Jagannath Ballabh Nataka. Whenever I had the chance to see Lord Krishna's face and his flute, even in a dream, two enemies would appear before me. They were pleasure and Cupid. And since they took away my mind, I was not able to see the face of Krishna to the full satisfaction of my eyes. If by chance such a moment comes when I can once again see Krishna, then I shall worship those seconds, moments, and hours with flower garlands and pulp of sandalwood, and decorate them with all kinds of jewels and ornaments. In an instant, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu regained external consciousness and saw two persons before him. Questioning them, he asked, "Am I conscious? What dreams have I been seeing? What craziness have I spoken? Have you heard some expressions of humility?" Purport: when Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu thus spoke in ecstasy, he saw two persons before him. One was his secretary, Srut Damodar, and the other was Rai Ramananda. Coming to his external consciousness, he saw them both present, and although he was still talking in the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, he immediately began to question whether he was the same Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "My dear friends, you are my life and soul. Therefore, I tell you that I possess no wealth of love for Krishna. Consequently, my life is poverty-stricken. My limbs and senses are useless." Again, he addressed Swarup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, speaking despondently, "Alas, my friends, you can now know the certainty within my heart, and after knowing my heart, you should judge whether I am correct or not. You can speak of this properly." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then began to chant another verse. "Love of Godhead, devoid of cheating propensities, is not possible within this material world. If there is such love, there cannot be separation, for if there is separation, how can one live?" This is a verse in a common language called Prakrit, and The exact Sanskrit transformation is Kaitava Rahitam Prema Nahi Bhavati Manushe Loke Yadi Bhavanti Kasya Viraho Virahe Satyapi Ko Jivati. Pure love for Krishna, just like gold from the Jambu River, does not exist in human society. If it existed, there could not be separation. If separation were there, one could not live. Thus speaking, the son of Srimati Shachimata recited another wonderful verse, and Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar heard this verse with rapt attention. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, I feel shameful to disclose the activities of my heart. Nonetheless, I shall be done with all formalities and speak from the heart. Please hear. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, my dear friends, I have not the slightest tinge of love of Godhead within my heart. When you see me crying in separation, I am just falsely exhibiting a demonstration of my good fortune. Indeed, not seeing the beautiful face of Krishna playing his flute, I continue to live my life like an insect without purpose. Actually, my love for Krishna is far, far away. Whatever I do is actually an exhibition of pseudo-love of Godhead. When you see me cry, I'm simply falsely demonstrating my great fortune. Please try to understand this beyond a doubt. Even though I do not see the moon-like face of Krishna as he plays on his flute, and although there is no possibility of my meeting him, still I take care of my own body. That is the way of lust. In this way, I maintain my fly-like life. Purport: in this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the lovable Supreme Lord is the supreme shelter. The Lord is the supreme subject and the devotees are the object. The coming together of a subject and object is called alambana. The object hears and the subject plays the flute. That the object cannot see the moon-like face of Krishna and has no eagerness to see him is the sign of being without alambana. Externally imagining such a thing simply satisfies one's lusty desires, and thus one lives without purpose. Love for Krishna is very pure, just like the waters of the Ganges. That love is an ocean of nectar. That pure attachment to Krishna does not conceal any spot, which would appear just like a spot of ink on a white cloth. Purport: unalloyed love of Krishna is just like a big sheet of white cloth. Absence of attachment is compared to a black spot on the white cloth. Just as the black spot is prominent, so the absence of love of Godhead is prominent on the platform of pure love of Godhead. Unalloyed love of Krishna is like an ocean of happiness. If someone gets one drop of it, the whole world can drown in that drop. It is not befitting to express love of Godhead, yet a madman must speak. But even though he speaks, no one believes him. In this way, Lord Caitanya used to revel in ecstasy day after day and exhibit these ecstasies before Swarupa and Ramananda Roy. Externally, there appeared severe tribulation as if he were suffering from poisonous effects. But internally, he was experiencing bliss. This is characteristic of transcendental love for Krishna. If one tastes such love of Godhead, he can compare it to a hot sugar cane. When one chews hot sugar cane, his mouth burns, yet he cannot give it up. Similarly, if one has but a little love of Godhead, he can perceive its powerful effects. It can only be compared to poison and nectar mixed together. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu spoke, my dear beautiful friend, if one develops love of Godhead, love of Krishna, son of Nanda Maharaj, all the bitter and sweet influences of this love will manifest in one's heart. Such love of Godhead acts in two ways. The poisonous effects of love of Godhead defeat the severe and fresh poison of the serpent. Yet there is simultaneously transcendental bliss which pours down and defeats the pride of nectar and diminishes its value. In other words, love of Krishna is so powerful that it simultaneously defeats the poisonous effects of a snake as well as the happiness derived from pouring nectar on one's head. It is perceived as doubly effective, simultaneously poisonous and nectarian. Mark that verse for me. I want it later. This verse is spoken by Purnamasi to Nandi Mukhi in the Vidagdha Madhava 2.18 of Srila Rupa Goswami. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath along with Balaram and Subhadra, he would immediately think that he had reached Kurukshetra, where all of them had come. He would think that his life was successful because he had seen the lotus-eyed one, whom if seen pacifies the body, mind and eyes. Staying near the Garuda Stamba, the Lord would look upon Lord Jagannath. What can be said about the strength of that love? On the ground beneath the column of the Garuda Stamba was a deep ditch, and that ditch was filled with the water of his tears. Purport. In front of the temple of Jagannath is a column on which the statue of Garuda is situated. It is called the Garuda Stamba. At the base of that column is a ditch, and that ditch was filled with the tears of the Lord. When coming from the Jagannath temple to return to his house, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to sit on the ground and mark it with his nails. At such time he would be greatly morose and would cry, "Alas, where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna, the son of the king of the cowherd men? Where is that person who plays the flute?" Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to lament by saying, "Where is Sri Krishna, whose form is curved in 3 places? Where is the sweet song of his flute? And where is the bank of the Jamuna? Where is the rasa dance? Where is that dancing, singing and laughing? Where is my Lord Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid?" In this way, various ecstatic emotions evolved, and the mind of Caitanya Mahaprabhu filled with ecstasy. He could not escape, even for a moment. In this way, because of fierce feelings of separation, his patience began to totter, and he began to recite various verses. "O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O friend of the helpless, you are the only ocean of mercy. Because I have not met you, my inauspicious days and nights have become unbearable. I do not know how I shall pass the time." This verse is from Kṛṣṇa-kathā by Bilva Mangal Thakur. "All these inauspicious days and nights are not passing, for I have not met you. It is difficult to know how to pass all this time. But you are the friend of the helpless and an ocean of mercy. Kindly give me your audience, for I am in a precarious position." And we're going to take our Gayatri break right now, and we'll be back here, if you want to continue together, at 5 minutes after 12. Okay? Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Vajrakalpatarusha Kripasindavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Just one note about reading through a whole section of Prabhupada's books. It's kind of like going on parikramā. When you go around Govardhan Hill, you'll find some places more accommodating to your feet. There may be soft sand. Other places, at least in the old days, there used to be places people just dumped gravel and there was no way around it. You just have to walk over it. So when we're reading through, you might find some sections that are more appealing than others. But in these types of yajñas, of reading, best thing is just to be very patient and listen to everything. Because even though your mind may not appreciate it at certain sections, you don't know. It's going in. It's like radiation. You can't see it. It goes in and it stays in, and you'll be really surprised later, maybe 2 years later, 5 years later, or even 5 minutes later, that you understand that Kṛṣṇa-kathā is transcendental. It's not different from Krishna. It goes in and it stays in, and it transforms us. So it is a yajña, but you have to and, not but, and you have to be steady and just stay the course. Om Tat Sat. See you back here at 12 minutes after now.